Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Amidst the gentle morning glow, a humble pickup truck arrived at its destination, revealing a scene that could only be described as a treasure trove. An aged, worn sign, fluttering in the wind, advertised a yard sale, an invitation to enter a world of hidden gems. While Saturday mornings were meant for relaxation and late sleep for many, 32-year-old Sean Mitchell found his thrill in the pursuit of lost treasures. With a simple outfit of a freshly donned plain white t-shirt and faded blue jeans, he emerged from his trusty sedan. He approached the sale with enthusiasm, greeting the elderly proprietor. "Good morning," he announced with friendly vigor. Perched behind a folding table laden with assorted trinkets and collectibles, an affable matron adjusted her thick-framed glasses, responding with a warm smile. "Well, good morning to you too, dearie. His apartment needed decorating, something to make the bare walls less depressing after his recent divorce. Ashley had taken most of their shared belongings, leaving him with little more than a mattress, a television, and a coffee maker. That's when he spotted it, an ornate mirror leaning against the garage wall. The frame appeared to be genuine silver, tarnished with age but intricate in its design. Vines and flowers wrapped around the edges, and at the top, a strange symbol was etched into the metal. "How much for the mirror?" Sean asked, running his fingers along the frame. The old woman approached slowly, leaning on a wooden cane. "That old thing? My husband bought it at an estate auction years ago. Never liked it myself. Always gave me strange feelings." She paused, studying Sean's face. $20, and it's yours." That seemed suspiciously cheap for such craftsmanship, but Sean wasn't about to argue. He handed over the cash, and with the woman's grandson's help, loaded the mirror into his car. Back at his apartment, Sean hung the mirror on the wall opposite his bed. It transformed the room immediately, adding character to the blank space. He stood back, admiring how the mirror caught the light and seemed to glow from within. "At least now I won't have to see just bare walls when I wake up," he muttered to himself. That night, Sean dreamt of strange whispers and a woman with flowing brown hair whose face he couldn't quite see. He woke feeling oddly restless, drawn to the mirror. In the dim morning light, the silver frame seemed to pulse with energy. For the next week, Sean found himself staring at his reflection more often than usual. Sometimes he could swear the mirror showed something different, a shadow behind him or a flicker of movement when he turned away. He dismissed these thoughts as products of an overactive imagination and too many late-night horror movies. The package arrived on Friday, items from his cousin's online clothing store that he'd agreed to photograph for her website. Emma ran a boutique specializing in vintage-inspired women's wear, and her regular photographer had canceled last minute. "Just put them on a hanger and take some decent shots," she'd instructed over the phone. "I'll pay you for your time, of course." Sean unpacked the box on his bed, a pink silk blouse, a floral skirt with a high waist, and several other feminine garments. He arranged them carefully, planning to set up a makeshift photography area the next day. As evening fell, a strange compulsion overtook him. Standing before the mirror, Sean found himself holding the pink blouse against his chest, wondering how it might look. He'd never had such thoughts before, but something about the mirror made him curious. "This is ridiculous," he whispered, yet he didn't put the blouse down. Before he could talk himself out of it, Sean pulled his t-shirt over his head and slipped into the silk blouse. The material felt cool against his skin. He paired it with the floral skirt, surprised at how naturally he moved as he dressed. When he finally looked up at his reflection, Sean gasped. Instead of his usual image, short brown hair, square jaw, and broad shoulders, a woman stared back at him. She had delicate features, full lips, and long, flowing brown hair that cascaded past her shoulders. Though the woman wore his clothes and mimicked his movements, she was undeniably feminine in every way. Sean stepped back, heart pounding. He closed his eyes, counted to 10, and looked again. The woman remained, her expression a mirror of his own shock.
"What the hell?"
he whispered, touching his face. His hand felt the rough stubble of his 5 o'clock shadow, yet in the mirror, delicate fingers traced a smooth cheek. He quickly stripped off the women's clothes, throwing them onto the bed. Immediately, his normal reflection returned, the same Sean who had always looked back at him from mirrors. Curiosity soon overcame fear. Over the next few days, Sean experimented with the mirror's strange property. Each time he wore something feminine, a scarf, one of the dresses from Emma's package, even just a women's watch, the mirror showed him as a woman. Always the same woman, with chestnut brown hair and bright eyes that seemed to hold secrets. A week after discovering the mirror's power, Sean made a decision. After returning from work in his usual button-down shirt and slacks, he opened the closet where he'd hidden Emma's clothes. He'd made excuses to keep them longer, claiming photography difficulties. Tonight, he wanted to see how complete the transformation could appear. He carefully applied makeup using tutorials he'd watched secretly on his phone during lunch breaks. He styled a wig he'd purchased online, brown to match the woman in the mirror. He put on the pink blouse and floral skirt, adding stockings and a pair of low heels he'd ordered 2 days ago. When his preparation was complete, Sean stood before the mirror, heart racing. The beautiful woman stared back, but something felt different. The air around the mirror seemed to shimmer, the silver frame glowing with an unearthly light.
"Who are you?"
Sean whispered to the reflection. The woman's lips moved with his words, but then curved into a smile he wasn't making. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he reached out to steady himself against the mirror's surface. The moment his fingertips touched the glass, a surge of energy pulsed through his body. Sean cried out, falling to his knees as sensation overwhelmed him. His skin tingled, muscles contracted, and bones seemed to shift beneath his flesh. The pain was intense but brief, like being unmade and remade in the span of heartbeats. When it subsided, Sean slowly rose, feeling strangely balanced despite the heels. His body felt lighter, differently proportioned. With trembling hands, he touched his face and gasped at the soft skin beneath his fingers. Long brown hair fell forward over his shoulders as he looked down at his body. A body with curves that hadn't been there before. The mirror now showed his actual appearance, not a separate reflection. Sean had physically transformed into the woman from the mirror. "This can't be happening," he whispered, but the voice that emerged was melodic and feminine. She spent hours examining her new body, trying to understand what had happened. The mirror had somehow made the reflection real, permanently altering her physical form. She was now the woman she had seen in the mirror. Delicate features, soft curves, and long brown hair that felt incredibly real because it was real. Morning brought no reversal of the transformation. The woman in the mirror matched the woman looking into it. After calling in sick to work, she spent the day coming to terms with her new reality. There was no going back. Something deep inside told her the change was permanent. Over the next week, she lived in seclusion, learning to move in her new body, speak with her new voice, and care for her long brown hair. She practiced walking in heels, managing her wardrobe, and applying makeup. Eventually, she knew decisions had to be made. She couldn't live as Sean anymore. Not with this body, this voice, this appearance. She chose the name Bianca, feeling it suited her new self, and began the process of creating a new identity. 3 months later, Bianca stood in front of a different mirror, this one in her new apartment across town. The antique mirror remained wrapped in blankets in her storage unit. She hadn't been able to bring herself to destroy it, but couldn't risk keeping it accessible either. Her wardrobe had expanded considerably. Where Sean had owned perhaps 10 interchangeable outfits, Bianca discovered a love for fashion. Today, she wore a cream-colored blouse and navy pencil skirt, her brown hair styled in loose waves. She'd learned to embrace her new life, finding work as a remote consultant that required minimal explanation about her past. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. "Coming!" she called, slipping into heels and grabbing her purse. Her friend Olivia waited outside, dressed for their lunch date. Olivia was new in Bianca's life, someone who had never known Sean, which made the friendship simpler. "You look amazing," Olivia said, admiring Bianca's outfit. "Ready for the restaurant opening?" Bianca nodded, locking her door. "Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it all week." As they walked to Olivia's car, Bianca reflected on how naturally she'd adapted to her new life. The initial shock and fear had given way to acceptance, and then to genuine appreciation. In many ways, life as Bianca offered freedoms Sean had never experienced. The freedom to explore new aspects of herself, to build relationships without the baggage of the past. "Oh, before I forget," Olivia said as they drove downtown, "there's a boutique next to the restaurant that just got new dresses in. We should check it out after lunch." "I could use something new," Bianca agreed, smiling. Her growing wardrobe had become a source of joy. That evening, Bianca returned home with a new emerald green cocktail dress hanging in a garment bag. The dress had fit perfectly, accentuating her figure in ways that made her feel confident and beautiful. She hung it carefully in her closet, running her fingers over the silky material. 3 months ago, the idea of getting excited about a dress would have seemed alien to her. Now, it felt perfectly natural. The mirror on her vanity reflected a woman comfortable in her skin. The brown hair that framed her face no longer seemed strange or foreign. It was simply hers, as was the body that had once belonged to someone else. Occasionally, memories of life as Sean surfaced, but they felt increasingly distant, like memories from a movie she'd watched rather than a life she'd lived. Bianca didn't fight this disconnection. She embraced it, recognizing that holding too tightly to the past would only make her present more difficult. 2 weeks later, Bianca wore her emerald green dress for the first time, attending a gallery opening with friends who knew her only as Bianca. She navigated the event with confidence, her 4-inch heels no longer a challenge, but an extension of herself. "That color is stunning on you," commented Rachel, a gallery assistant she'd befriended recently. "I keep telling people that jewel tones are making a comeback." Bianca smiled, smoothing the fabric of her dress. "I fell in love with it the moment I tried it on." As the evening progressed, Bianca caught sight of herself in one of the large, decorative mirrors adorning the gallery walls. For a moment, she expected to see Sean looking back, an echo of her former self trapped behind glass. Instead, there was only Bianca in her emerald dress, brown hair cascading over bare shoulders, eyes bright with contentment. The mirror had changed her, yes, but increasingly, Bianca understood that the transformation had revealed rather than created. The woman she had become wasn't a stranger imposed upon Sean, but a part of herself that had been waiting to emerge. 6 months after the transformation, Bianca celebrated her birthday, marking not the day Sean was born, but the day Bianca came into being. She wore her favorite emerald dress and invited the small circle of friends she'd gathered in her new life. They dined at an upscale restaurant, sharing stories and laughter. None of them knew the truth of her transformation. They knew only the narrative she'd constructed about moving to town for a fresh start after leaving an unhappy relationship. "To new beginnings," Olivia toasted, raising her glass. "And to finding yourself." Bianca touched her glass to Olivia's, smiling. "To finding yourself," she repeated softly. Later that night, alone in her apartment, Bianca unwrapped the antique mirror from its protective coverings. She hadn't looked into it since the day of her transformation, too afraid of what might happen. Now, feeling secure in her identity as Bianca, she wanted to face it again. The silver frame gleamed in the dim light of her bedroom, the intricate vines and flowers somehow more vibrant than before. Bianca stood before it, smoothing the fabric of her emerald dress. The reflection showed only Bianca, the same image any mirror would display. The magical property seemed dormant now, as though its purpose had been fulfilled. "Thank you," she whispered to the mirror, not entirely sure why she felt gratitude toward an object that had so drastically altered her life without permission. She covered the mirror again and returned it to storage, carrying with her the knowledge that sometimes the most unexpected changes lead to the most authentic versions of ourselves. 1 year after her transformation, Bianca received a job offer that would take her across the country. The opportunity felt right, a chance to fully embrace her new life without any shadows of the past lurking around corners. As she packed her apartment, she came across the wrapped mirror in her closet. For a moment, she considered selling it, passing its magic on to someone else who might need transformation. Instead, she arranged for it to be placed in a secure storage facility. Some powers were too profound to risk falling into unprepared hands. Her final night in town, Bianca met her friends for dinner, wearing her emerald dress one last time before it was packed away for the move. "Promise you'll visit," Rachel said, hugging her goodbye outside the restaurant. "Of course," Bianca assured her, the warmth of friendship still a precious novelty in her new life. At home, she stood in her nearly empty apartment, preparing for the next chapter. Her fingers absently stroked through her long brown hair as she contemplated how far she had come. The mirror had given her a new body, but Bianca had built a new life within it. One choice, one day, one relationship at a time. The physical transformation had been instantaneous. The internal transformation had been a journey of discovery. 3 years after touching the mirror's surface, Bianca had established herself in her field, created a home in a new city, and developed relationships both professional and personal that fulfilled her in ways Sean's life never had. Her brown hair, now grown even longer, had become something of a personal trademark, along with her collection of dresses that expanded with each season. On a crisp October morning, Bianca received a mysterious package. Inside was a small silver hand mirror, its design matching the antique mirror that had transformed her. A note accompanied it. "Some reflections reveal our truest selves. The handwriting belonged to the elderly woman from the yard sale, though Bianca had no idea how she had been found. The small mirror possessed no transformative powers. It was simply a beautiful object that served as a reminder of her journey. Bianca placed it on her vanity, a daily symbol that sometimes we must see ourselves differently before we can become who we're meant to be. That evening, dressed in a new royal blue dress that complemented her brown hair, Bianca prepared for a date with someone who showed promise, a kind, intelligent person who saw her exactly as she was and found her captivating. As she applied her lipstick, the silver hand mirror caught the light, momentarily flashing with that same otherworldly glow she remembered from years ago. But this time, there was no transformation to follow, only the continued unfolding of a life authentically lived. "Ready or not," she whispered to her reflection, "this is who I am." And it was enough, more than enough. It was everything. 5 years after her transformation, Bianca stood before another mirror, this one in the dressing room of a bridal boutique. The white gown she wore shimmered with subtle beading, its classic silhouette complementing her figure perfectly. Her brown hair was swept up in an elegant trial updo, with a few tendrils framing her face. "What do you think?" asked the boutique owner, adjusting the train. Bianca turned, examining her reflection from different angles. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Her fiancé waited outside with Olivia, who had remained a steadfast friend through the years and would serve as her maid of honor. The relationship had developed naturally, built on genuine connection rather than a fabricated past. Bianca had never shared the truth of her transformation, but she had been honest about having left behind a life that no longer fit who she truly was. When she emerged from the dressing room in her regular clothes, a burgundy sweater dress that highlighted her brown hair, Olivia clapped her hands. "Did you find the one?" she asked excitedly. Bianca nodded, unable to stop smiling. "I did." Later that night, in the quiet of her home, Bianca opened the keepsake box where she kept the silver hand mirror. Over the years, it had become a talisman of sorts, a reminder of how completely life could change in a single moment. She ran her fingers over the intricate design, remembering the fear and confusion of those first days after her transformation. That fear had given way to tentative exploration, then to confidence, and finally to genuine joy in the life she had built. The silver antique mirror remained in storage, untouched for years. Sometimes Bianca wondered if its magic had been specific to her, or if it would transform anyone who stood before it in the right circumstances. She preferred not to find out, leaving the mirror's power dormant and contained. Her wedding day arrived on a perfect spring morning. As her stylist arranged her brown hair in an elegant updo adorned with small white flowers, Bianca felt a profound sense of rightness. This day, this life, this identity, all of it felt more authentically hers than anything in her previous existence. Her emerald green dress, now considered her lucky charm, hung in her closet at home. For today, she wore ivory silk and lace, classic and timeless. When she stood to slip into her gown, her movements were graceful and assured. No trace remained of the awkwardness she had felt in those first days of her new body. The ceremony was intimate, held in a garden surrounded by flowering trees. As Bianca walked down the aisle, she caught glimpses of herself in the decorative mirrors strategically placed to enhance the garden's beauty. Each reflection confirmed what she had come to know. This was no disguise, no temporary transformation. This was her true self, finally aligned inside and out. 7 years after touching the silver mirror, Bianca received news that the elderly woman from the yard sale had passed away. Among her possessions was a journal detailing the mirror's history, how it had passed through generations of women, each discovering its unique properties in different ways. The journal revealed that the mirror didn't create random changes, but reflected and then manifested the viewer's deepest, unacknowledged truth about themselves. For some, this meant minor alterations: hair color, facial features, body shape. For others, like Bianca, it meant complete transformation. The final pages contained a message addressed to the woman who bought the mirror, suggesting the elderly seller had known more than she revealed that Saturday morning years ago. "If you're reading this," the message stated, "then the mirror showed you your truth, as it once showed me mine. Some call it magic, others divine intervention. I believe it simply reflects what already exists within us, waiting to emerge. May your reflection bring you the peace it eventually brought me." Bianca closed the journal, contemplating this new understanding of her transformation. The mirror hadn't imposed a random female form upon Sean. It had revealed Bianca, who had been present all along, concealed beneath layers of societal expectations and personal fear. That night, she dreamt of the mirror and the elderly woman, both glowing with the same silver light. In the dream, she stood before the mirror wearing her emerald green dress, her brown hair flowing freely around her shoulders. "Thank you for finding me," she told her reflection, no longer uncertain whether she was addressing the mirror or herself. 10 years after her transformation, Bianca sometimes went days without thinking about her previous life. The memories remained, but felt increasingly like stories about someone else. She kept her emerald dress, now vintage but still striking against her brown hair, as a reminder of her early days as Bianca, the first times she had truly felt at home in her skin. Her career had flourished, her relationship had deepened into a partnership of equals, and her sense of self had solidified beyond any doubt. The silver hand mirror remained on her vanity, a daily reminder not of what she had lost, but of what she had gained: authenticity, alignment, peace. The antique mirror that had transformed her remained in storage, its power dormant, but not forgotten. Sometimes Bianca wondered if another person might someday stand before it and experience their own revelation. If so, she hoped they would find the courage she had found, the courage to embrace rather than fear the reflection of their truest self. On the anniversary of her transformation, Bianca wore her emerald dress and styled her brown hair in loose waves. She took herself to dinner, a private celebration of the journey from who she had been to who she had become. As she raised a glass of champagne in a quiet toast, her reflection in the restaurant's mirrored wall showed exactly who she was: a woman confident in her identity, grateful for her past, but fully present in her now. "To reflections," she whispered, "and to the truths they reveal." The soft clink of her glass against its reflection was answer enough.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!